Dear learners, welcome to this session. Today we will be discussing human trafficking as organized crime. We have understood what is human trafficking, what are the various rights available to human beings, what are the causes and types of human trafficking, what are the indicators of human trafficking, what are the vulnerabilities of persons being trafficked, and now we will discuss trafficking as an organized crime. You know, we have always spoken about this concept that trafficking is an organized crime because you don't find only one person involved, that is a trafficker. There may be a lot of people involved in trafficking, and sometimes it is a collective movement by all these people to make the person vulnerable or to make use of his vulnerability to their advantages. You know, defining organized crime, the organized crime has been defined by Encyclopedia Britannica as organized crime complex of highly centralized enterprises set up for the purpose of engaging in illegal activities, such as organization engaged in offenses such as cargo theft, fraud, robbery, kidnapping for ransom, and the demanding of protection payments. The principal source of income for these criminal syndicates is the supply of goods and services that are illegal but for which there is a continued public demand, such as drugs, prostitution, loan sharking, gambling, etc. The term organized crime refers to a crime that involves cooperation of several different persons or groups for its successful execution. Organized crime is usually professional crime. The organization may be loose or general, informal, or it may be definite and formal, involving a system of specifically defined relationship with mutual obligations and privileges. Crime organizations may involve small or large group. Organized crime is devoted almost exclusively to economic ends, to the acquisition of wealth, power, benefit. The criminal is in this respect like most of the rest of us, but in order to obtain his end, he utilizes means which are deemed illegitimate. Interpol has also defined it, organized crime broadly. It defines as an enterprise or group of persons engaged in continuing illegal activity which has its primary purpose the generation of profit irrespective of national boundaries. So, it covers cross-border crime also. Organized crime group shall mean a structured group of 3 or more persons existing for a period of time and acting in concert with the aim of committing one or more serious crimes or offenses established in accordance with this convention in order to obtain directly or indirectly a financial or other material benefit. This is the definition as per the Convention on Transnational Organized Crime. The human trafficking is an organized crime which was recognized by the United Nations Convention against transnational organized crime, and this has defined in a broader way, keeping in view the need and the necessity of incorporating a wider definition of this. Traffickers have the full knowledge of areas where vulnerabilities exist and also about the families which need some help, some intervention, and are ready to come out of their miserable periods. Persons to be trafficked are identified through a systematic network of various persons at different locations. It is an organized activity involving intelligence gatherers in the source area, linked upwards through various channels to the traffickers, and finally to brothel keepers or employers, or those who need organ transplantation, or those associated with other purposes. These agents methodologically identify vulnerable persons. For example, families with adolescent girls, orphans, young widows, adolescent girls or boys living with single parents. This includes mostly families of individuals in vulnerable situation, like those who are facing difficult social and economic situation for various reasons. Traffickers take advantage of such situations and systematically exploit persons through financial, social or religious means. Under the guise of giving help, families are even given loans by the brothels keepers or employers as advance, or sometimes at high interest rates, and when the families are not able to pay back the loan, in lieu of the redemption of the debt, these families are then forced to send their younger children and adolescent daughters or sons to work with them. The victim is totally unaware of the nature of the work, but might not know the extent and nature of exploitation as a consequence of such work. Accompany the trafficker to be sold into brothels or work as bonded labor in some remote places. This is why we say that people are vulnerable, and out of vulnerable they are not able to make reasoned choices and decisions. So we must respect their victimhood. The organization of red light areas and brothel system. The brothel system is so organized that it does not allow victims to escape, provides maximum security to those involved in trafficking, keeps up with the newer demands of clients and markets, and earns handsome revenues for those involved in it except the victim. A large percentage of sex workers in any red light area are migrant from other states in India and from neighboring countries such as Nepal and Bangladesh. Given the criminal nature of sex workers in India, sex workers do not have any civil rights and live in constant fear of being arrested by the police for soliciting sex, as it is punishable. The living conditions of both brothel-based and street-based sex workers are deplorable, and basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, hygiene are scarcely available to these people. Thus denied civil rights, and due to fear of arrest and prosecution by the police, the victims prefer to remain silent and do not seek any help from the police officers. There is an interdependence between the pimps, agents and brothel keepers. Both need each other to keep their work or cash registers rolling. The brothel keepers, usually an older woman called madam, needs a regular supply of fresh girls, for which she totally relies on agents or girl brokers who use their network to produce girls for these madams. The pimps go about the streets and fetch clients for the women in commercial sexual exploitation. The pimps get a cut in what the client agrees to pay the woman. In almost all the brothels in India, the traffic victims operate under adhiya system, half. In this system, half of whatever each girl earns goes to the brothel keeper, the madam. The rest of the half takes care of everything, including her food, clothing, shelter, medical and other expenses, and if you have a family, then their needs. For all these, they have to depend on the money lender. They usually charge high rates of interest and generally make money by manipulating the amount. We do not provide financial training to these people. Neither they are literate or aware about their rights. The madams borrow from these money lenders in the name of the girls and then pay back from their income. The money lenders take his installment from their daily take, and the madams goes to his shop once a month with her girls to pay it to him. So everybody benefits, but the victim suffers. The moneylender writes all these transactions in his book, which are never shown to anybody. The girls or even the madam never knows how much the original loan was, how much was the interest, and how much is paid back and what remains to be paid. And besides, madam is quite happy to have the girls deep in debt. The more debt you have on your shoulders, the more vulnerable you become in front of these traffickers. Trafficking for cross-border. So this is also an organized crime. Why we say organized crime? Because this is done by so many people in a proper organized way and violates your human rights and legal rights. The trafficked foreign nationals are booked under various sections of the law and looked down upon as perpetrator if they happen to be foreign nationals without valid passport or staying beyond the limitations as stipulated in their visa. The passports of foreign nationals are usually snatched away from the victims when they are forced into commercial sexual exploitation or labor or organ trade, servitudes, drugs, etc. So they do not have their passports with them. So how will they seek help of the government or the police? They stay in dingy room with no ventilation. They do hazardous employment. They do illegal work as per the direction of the trafficker. If they say no, they will be abused, tortured till they agree to work for the trafficker. No wages or wages just to survive so that they don't die. Food and basic needs are neglected. Medical needs are neither given to them nor they can think about the medical needs being addressed till they get into a situation where their life is in danger. They work for hours between 15 to 18 hours. Their dignity rights are violated, all the labor laws are violated, all the constitution and statutes are violated. They are easy to handle by fear and force as they are in captivity, so they have no say. Passport is also with the employer who manipulates to his advantage. Working conditions and norms are fixed by the employer. Now, we will discuss false marriages as organized crime. So, human trafficking also happens for false marriages. You know, you have seen so many cases where false marriages are done or false promises are given. Then, after the marriage takes place, sexual exploitation of the victim is done by the family, by the society, and sometimes they also sell these people and they are sold and purchased in different places where sexual activities are carried on. Domestic violence is very much there in cases where people are purchased and bought. Marital rape and gang rape is also witnessed in cases of false marriages. Woman is treated as a commodity and somebody owes that woman. So violence, abuse and trauma are the normal things to happen in the life of that woman. Child marriage as an organized crime. Child marriage is prohibited in India. Still we find cases of child marriages and marriages where children are abused. They are overpowered and controlled by the so-called family members. The children cannot raise their voices after marriage, as they are dependent on the husband and family members of the husband for their daily sustenance, so their vulnerability increases. Their family members will not accept them back to home, so they have no choice than to abide by whatever has been said by the family. Physical, mental and emotional trauma can be seen in cases of child marriages. Now we will discuss organ trade as an organized crime. So trafficking is done for organ trade, and we will discuss the details now. Act is manipulated and violated, as we know that we have an Organ Transplantation Act, and this is a group activity because the committee is somehow manipulated to give positive reports of donors. It is very easy for the traffickers, because they have a good networking, to find clients and donors. Profit is generated as the expense of one's life, that is the donor. Abuse and violation of dignity rights of the person who is a donor is done. Exploitation of the vulnerability happens by the traffickers, the middlemen, and sometimes even by the family members, as when they pay for the person's vulnerability, they know that out of the vulnerability that person has agreed to become the donor. So just to save your life or somebody who is close to you, her or his life, you are risking the life of another person. Pornography as an organized crime, using technology to violate privacy and dignity rights. We see these happening in lot of cyber cases which are reported. Hacker has a very important role in hacking the data. If you do not have anti-software viruses installed and updated, then hackers can easily come and intrude into your privacy. Photo studio and tampering the data, the photographs, the videos are done by these criminals. They earn out of other person's vulnerability, ignorance, and sell that person's dignity, body for their advantage. Sometimes the victim is not even aware of the crime, because if you go to a hotel or a changing room or a restaurant, and then if you just sit there and change, or you just come out, you don't know that your video has been made public or has been shared on the pornography sites. There are a lot of reputations and honor issues, so even in cases of blackmail, people and families do not report about the pornography incidents. I request you all that if you find any case of cyber crime, then do report it immediately to the police officers 112. So the number is 112, and we should all report the crimes. Drugs as organized crime. Drugs to control a person. During transit, at the destination, sometimes also at the source. Drugs to lower your voices or to shut your voices and screamings so that you don't retaliate. Drug to overpower doing sexual abuses, or when you have to generate more of income in terms of your labor, then you abuse a person, you drug a person to get more work done. Drugs to increase the stamina and to change the biological, physical personality of the person. Drugs to sell a person so that during transit the person is calm and quiet and does not attract any kind of notice. Drugs to blackmail a person. So first you drug a person, then you commit offenses, you make videos, and then you blackmail the person. Beggary is also as an organized crime because the criminals earn lot of money from the beggars. Abduction and kidnapping of people for using them as beggars on streets, making use of their vulnerability, breaking the limbs and other body parts to show how vulnerable they are, to gain the sympathy of the people who look at these people, to drug them so that they are unconscious, and when the other person carries them in their arms, then the people will not even know that the child belongs to somebody else or this child is in need of care and protection. So we have an act which says beggary is prohibited in India. This is the worst form of human trafficking. So please do not give alms on the street. In the end, I would just like to say that we have discussed trafficking as an organized crime and understood that these people are vulnerable people and not criminals. They need rehabilitative schemes from the government, proper support from the family members and society so that they reintegrate in the society and are not forced to re-trafficking or for further abuse. Thank you for listening. Have a safe day.